Okay, so 11 years ago, you both founded a storage group. What was the self-storage market like? What did you guys think needed to be changed?
Well, with regard to technology, I've really got two words for that. The industry was primitive and it was rather secretive. So, in the decade prior to the startup of the storage group, which was in 2010, it was a time where you had the advent of some levels of technology. Um, you had desktop websites, you had call centers. The REITs were just coming out with call centers in the early 2000s. Like I said, websites were just a new thing in the early 2000s. You started having cloud-based property management software, and then there were these words all around search engine marketing. So you had search engine optimization and pay-per-click and those sorts of terms. Um, but but a lot of question on what all that meant. Um, and so in 2010, we were in the midst of that Great Recession and really an overbuilt storage market. No one was really building at the time, and a lot of the operators were really trying to find a way to lease up or build back their occupancy levels. At the time, Larry and I were really sort of in a hiatus from the development and the operation side, and we were looking around at what we could do during this downturn in the economy. But we were still silent investors in a number of facilities. We still had that opportunity, and we kept noticing on our profit and loss statements this one line item called online marketing. And the more we asked about it, the less we really learned. All we heard about was some of the words I said before. Well, that's for website, that's for hosting, that's for these terms, search engine optimization and pay per click. Well, what does that mean? Nobody could really give us a defined answer. But we saw that it kept growing, um, and but it was just still all lumped together. So that's why I said secrecy. Um, and we had some good friends in the industry in the technology sector, but on the hospitality side. And we reached out to them and talked to them just sort of casually, right, Larry? It was just sort of a casual conversation
Yeah.
about what are you doing right now during the downturn, uh, and sort of looking for something to do. So we mentioned that to them. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, yeah, and so in those conversations, we learned that they had a really neat approach to as to how they were marketing the hotels. Many times in the larger REITs, they would want to put all of the hotels around the industry, around the world, onto a kind of the same website. But they knew through some of their testing that individual websites for individual hotels and properties performed much better, and the owners, the individual owners, could make judgment decisions on how much they would want to spend to bring in what kind of market or customers to them. It was then that we recognized we had an opportunity to benefit from what their lessons learned were in the hospitality industry and apply that directly to self storage. To Brian's point earlier, since we did not have that transparency, we really wanted to bring the transparency part to the self storage industry. That was that's particularly helpful when you're dealing with people who are not used to at all this new technology into the workplace.
So our friends in the hospitality industry went out and they did some due diligence for us. They looked to see who was doing, who was working in a similar fashion as they were, and they came back and they really didn't see the depth of marketing in our industry, the self storage market industry, as they have in hospitality. And further along those lines, they felt as if our industry was about 5 to 7 years behind the hospitality industry. So to take it a step further, before we truly launched, I guess it was right around the time we launched, we brought them out to the Self Storage Association convention in Las Vegas in August of 2010. And lo and behold, the intro speech from the then current president He got up and basically the keynote was, let's discuss how the self-storage industry is about 5 to 7 years behind the self-storage industry. Our friends there looked over at us and thought, did you actually write this script for them? I mean, that was their takeaway. And so we knew we were onto something then, and then began our efforts to develop the self store the storage group, and start utilizing some of these systems and technologies that were out there but not being used by the self storage industry.